I'm sure some of you guys are wondering, based on the title of this video, how I'm going to link Deion Sanders to the huge embarrassing failure that's more commonly known as the WNBA dump. Well, what I'm going to do here, I am going to use Deion Sanders to further prove that the WNBA is not only a failure, but it should also be removed from television altogether. Over the years, we have discussed television ratings countless times here on the channel. I am fascinated with television ratings because the numbers, the ratings, it removes all the spin. The numbers remove the propaganda. Now, that does not mean that the mainstream media doesn't try to manipulate the ratings to fit their own narrative. When one of their partners in the butt bongo are struggling in the ratings, the media, they will create all kinds of excuses to justify their partner's failure. Oh, it's that damn cord cutting. Nice try, but streaming numbers, they are now included in the ratings. Oh, it's climate change. People don't like watching television in the summertime. Oh, yeah. Because when it's 110 degrees outside and it's absolutely miserable, people are not sheltering in their house to get away from the heat. It's toxic masculinity, it's misogyny, it's the time slot. The networks aren't giving them favorable time slots. The media fabricates excuse after excuse as to why their butt bongo partners are not drawing an audience on television. Remember last month when ratings for the World Cup were a complete disaster? The mainstream media, they were hyping up the World Cup to be the event of the summer. It was going to be the final World Cup for their favorite prepubescent boy, Mark Rapinoe. Now, in the eyes of the mainstream media, Mark represents progress, a pretend man participating in women's sports. When ratings for the World Cup flopped, when it was proven once again that Megan Rapinoe is not a draw, when it was proven once again that Megan Rapinoe equates to a Lizzo-sized vomit, the mainstream media, they blame the early morning time slots for the low ratings. When it comes to struggling ratings in the NBA, the media, they have run out of excuses. They don't even try to create excuses for the NBA anymore. They either polish the turd, they make shit up to make NBA ratings appear to be better than they actually are, or the media just doesn't cover NBA ratings and they ignore it. Today, thanks to Deion Sanders, we are going to disprove all of these media excuses once again. Right now, Deion Sanders is proving that drawing strong ratings on television is still possible. For so long now, we have been told that it is impossible to pull strong numbers on television. We have been told that outside the NFL, nothing else on TV draws strong ratings. Deion Sanders, he is proving that if you give the people what they want, entertainment, then the people will tune in and support you. Deion Sanders, he takes a lot of shit from his detractors. The other day, I think it was Jason Whitlock. I saw Jason Whitlock trying to play the role of a psychiatrist and diagnosing Deion Sanders with issues of self-esteem. Look, I like Jason Whitlock. Sometimes I think he makes good points. But when it comes to Deion Sanders, I could not disagree with him more. Deion Sanders is doing his job. He's playing a role. All of his antics, all the stuff he says during press conferences, it's no different than an actor on a hit TV show or movie. Deion Sanders is playing a part, and he's playing it to perfection. You don't have to take my word for it. The ratings, they will tell you everything that you need to know. But before I reveal the ratings from this past weekend, let's get to the sponsor for today's video, my friends over at 0 Hour Apparel. It can be hard at times to find clothing companies that aren't donating a portion of their proceeds to Woke United Methodist instead of donating their proceeds to the people that really matter, the people that really need it. The people in our military. Anytime I find a clothing company that's owned by good people like you and me, I try to bring them to your attention. And that is the case with my friends at 0 Hour Apparel. 0 Hour Apparel, they're a family-owned business run by a family of military veterans. They also offer some kick-ass clothing. Check some out for yourself. Now this one right here, it's one of my personal favorites. You know how I feel about emotional dudes getting in their feelings. But don't worry, ladies, don't worry. They also have offerings for you too. My girlfriend, she loves tank tops and just about anything with a heart on it. I'll be getting this one for her. The company is named 0 Hour Apparel because 0 hour, that represents the start of a mission in the military. It is the moment our military makes a difference. You can make a difference too in the lives of our military veterans by supporting my friends at 0 Hour Apparel. Use my promo code BTL10, BTL10. Receive 10% off of your first purchase. Click the link in the pinned comment or the description below, or head over to zerohourapparel.com today to place your first order. All right, Saturday night, one of the biggest rivalries in college football was broadcast on ESPN. This game was so important, ESPN placed it in the worst time slot of the day, 10 o'clock at night Eastern Time. ESPN, they decided that Tennessee-Florida should be the marquee game of the week, since so many people throughout the country couldn't name one player on either team. This game was so important to ESPN, they utilized the services of their best broadcast crew to call the game. Well, KC, are you talking about Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit? No, of course not. I'm talking about Mark Jones and some other dude that's so anonymous, I've already forgotten his name, and I watched the damn game Saturday night. Longtime viewers of this channel know exactly how I feel about Mark Jones. I would rather listen to two cats in heat humping a battery-powered cucumber than listen to Mark Jones call a sporting event. This dude's been calling football games for 30 years. He still thinks an ineligible receiver downfield is called when he finds the wrong blow-up doll in his bed. Although there were plenty of hype off the field, although there was plenty of shit talking back and forth before the game, ESPN, they didn't exactly set up this game to be a rating success. Normally, when a network feels like they have a marquee game, they put that game on in prime time. They don't put the game in a time slot where it'll be ending at 1 or 2 in the morning when most people are asleep. But even with all of that working against him, Deion Sanders, he managed to draw 9.3 million viewers. The game peaked before midnight with over 11 million. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me Colorado State was the 5th most watched college football game on record? How in the hell is that possible? I would be willing to bet that most people, they couldn't locate Colorado State on a map. They couldn't name the city that it's in. Hell, most people, they couldn't name their mascot. So how did they manage to draw 10 million viewers for a game that was being broadcast basically in the middle of the night? Because Deion Sanders, he gave people a reason to watch. Deion Sanders, he gives people what they want, entertainment. Deion Sanders proves that if you give people a reason to watch, people will tune in. Which brings us to the WNBA and why this dump does not belong on television. Next year, the Duchess of Dump Divas, Kathy Engelbert, she's going to begin negotiating their new broadcast rights deal. Now, the Duchess, she doesn't have a choice. She has got to increase the amount networks pay to broadcast live footage from the dump. She's beginning to lose players who are making more money overseas. The only way to combat that problem is to increase the pay of these garbage men, or in some cases, women. The only way to increase their salaries is to charge the networks more money to broadcast the garbage. The problem is, the Duchess doesn't have any leverage. The WNBA does not deserve to be on television, and they damn sure don't deserve to be on television because they're not giving people a reason to watch their games. Saturday night, Deion Sanders, over 9 million viewers for a meaningless college football game when you think about it. I mean, let's be real here. If you remove Deion Sanders from that equation, no one's watching that game between Colorado and Colorado State. Friday night, WNBA playoffs, better known here on the channel as the chase for the golden toilet. They essentially ran unopposed. In terms of sports, there was literally nothing on TV Friday night. ESPN carried an exciting matchup between Army and UTSA. Ooh, captivating. FS1 had Virginia, Maryland. Vomit. The people who didn't fall asleep watching Army and UTSA, they were treated to top-rank boxing on ESPN. Anonymous Lopez versus Unknown Gomez. Vomit. Now you gotta remember, ESPN is supposedly the home of the WNBA. This is the network that is supposed to prioritize pretend women's basketball over everything else. Yet for some reason, ESPN bumped the dump to ESPN2. The first game, it was the Washington Musculars competing in a riveting contest of bobbing for Don's Lemons against the New York Leprosy. This exciting matchup, 314,000 viewers. Game 2 featured the Atlanta Dreamers against the Dallas Winkers. This matchup was fitting since many of the Dreamers dream of having a winker, 287,000 viewers. Once again, the WNBA playoffs, huge, embarrassing failure. There are no more excuses to be made. There's just no other way to justify it. There's no one else to be blamed. Let's just be honest here. This league does not draw on television, which means the WNBA doesn't belong on television. This is the most important part of their season. This time of year, people are supposed to be glued to their TV watching these dump divers compete for access to the Golden Throne. Yet for some reason, no one is watching. And no one is watching because there's no reason to watch. And there's no reason to watch because the WNBA doesn't have any star players. This past March, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, they proved that there is a market for women's basketball. Women playing basketball, that is not the reason the WNBA is a failure. If you give people a reason to be invested, they will spend their time watching you. This dump has been given 27 years. They had almost 10,000 days to convince people to watch this league. It never happened. Now the media, they have shoved this league down our throats. Didn't work. Networks, they have put their games on in prime time. Didn't work. They've tried streaming, thinking the WNBA appeals to a younger demographic who doesn't have access to cable. Didn't work. You know why Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese returned to college instead of entering the WNBA? Now, that does not happen in men's basketball. If a dude is projected to be a first-round draft pick, his ass is gone. The women, they chose to stay in college. Why? Because they know when they enter the WNBA, their career will be over. All of that mainstream drawing power, all those endorsements, gone. I know it sounds harsh, but the truth often does. And the truth is, the WNBA has absolutely no business being on television. But you give me your thoughts. Deion Sanders draws over 9 million viewers on ESPN for a game that ended in the wee hours of Sunday morning. This proves people are willing to watch TV when you give them a reason to watch. It's the same reason that Yellowstone was so successful on the Paramount network. That show was pulling 7, 8, 9 million viewers on a network that most people didn't even know existed. I think this also proves that the WNBA does not belong on TV. But what about you? Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe. I've got to get out of here. I got somewhere to be this afternoon. I'll see you guys tomorrow.